You thought that being 8 months pregnant meant your family would be the one place you could lean on. But instead of open arms, you were told to leave just because your sister wanted the room you were staying in. In that moment, you didn't just lose a roof over your head, you lost the belief that your parents would stand by you when you were at your most vulnerable. Your heart ached, heavy and raw, as if the whole world had turned its back on you. And from that very instant, you realized you had to rise on your own, even while carrying a fragile new life inside you. What would you do if your own family pushed you out when you needed them most? If this story resonates with you, a gentle like and subscribe will be the bridge that keeps us connected. You sit by the familiar window, your hand gently resting on your belly, feeling the soft kicks of the child you are carrying. Outside, the afternoon sun paints everything gold, but inside your heart feels heavy, as if no light could pierce through the clouds circling above you. People often say that when a woman is pregnant, the one thing she needs most is comfort and protection from her family. But for you, it has always been different. You grew up in a home where love was measured, compared, and tilted toward your sister. From childhood, you were used to hearing endless praise showered on her, while you stood in the shadows, waiting for even a glance of recognition. When she achieved something, the house filled with celebration. When you worked hard, your efforts were brushed aside with a few empty words. Still, you held on to the belief that blood ties would mean something, that one day, in your most vulnerable moment, your parents would stand by you. You were wrong, and realizing that cut even deeper than you imagined. At the start of your pregnancy, you returned to your childhood home. Not because you wanted to rely on anyone, but because you thought this place would be the safest haven for you and your baby. Each morning, you tried to smile, help your mother with small tasks, and chat with your father, hoping to build a sense of warmth. But soon you realized that no matter what you did, nothing would change. In their eyes, your sister remained the center, while you were just a guest passing through. You remember one evening vividly. The family gathered for dinner. You carefully pulled out a chair, your belly making every move heavier. Your father looked at you briefly, then quickly turned back to your sister, his face lighting up as he asked about her work, her plans, her dreams. You ate in silence, listening, but inside you ached. Did anyone notice that you two had dreams, that you two were battling fear as the day of birth drew closer? That night you couldn't sleep. Your hand lay over your belly as you whispered to your child, "I'll protect you, no matter what." In that moment, you felt fragile yet strangely strong, as if the love for your baby was the only thing keeping you standing. Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own family? Have you ever longed for a single word of encouragement, only to realize it may never come? That question stayed with you for years, but now, as you prepare to become a mother, it weighs heavier than ever. The next morning, as you tidied your room, your sister suddenly walked in. Her eyes scanned the space, then she said words you will never forget. "This room suits me better." You froze, thinking it was just a careless remark. But her gaze was firm, as if she had already been promised what you thought was still yours. That evening, your parents called you downstairs. Your father's voice was serious, your mother avoided your eyes. They told you your sister needed your room, and you should prepare to leave. You looked at them, unable to speak. 8 months pregnant, nowhere to go, your body aching with the weight of new life. Yet instead of compassion, all you saw was cold determination. Your heart cracked open, leaving a hollow space no words could fill. At that moment, you understood that family love is not always fair. And the deepest wound isn't losing a room, it's losing faith that your parents would protect you when you needed them most. You sat in your room, surrounded by the objects of your childhood, each one tied to a memory. You once thought this place would be your safe corner, but now it had become the very place you were being pushed out of. Your hands trembled as you folded clothes, tears falling on the tiny baby outfits you had prepared. You knew you had no choice but to leave. Yet, within all that pain, a thought flickered. Maybe this was the moment you had to rise. Maybe this was the time to build your own path, even if it was lined with hardship. You asked yourself, if it were you, would you quietly accept, or would you fight to prove your worth? Close quote. This story is not only about personal pain, it is about resilience. It reminds you that sometimes, the very place meant to protect you becomes the place that breaks you. But it is also from that breaking point that you find the strength to stand again. If these words resonate with you, let your heart decide. A simple like or subscribe is not just support, it's a way to keep these stories of truth, of family, of inner strength alive. You still remember that evening so vividly. The living room was bathed in a dim yellow glow, but it no longer carried the warmth you once knew. Your father sat upright, hands clasped together, his eyes refusing to meet yours. Your mother sat beside him, her face showing a flicker of guilt before she quickly looked down, pretending to shuffle some papers. You stepped inside, your heart pounding, dread weighing heavily on you. Then came the words, cold and sharp. "Your sister needs this room. You should stop preparing to move out." In that instant, time seemed to stop. Your ears rang. All you could hear was your own heartbeat racing. You wanted to believe it was a cruel joke, or at least a misunderstanding. But the stern look on your father's face and your mother's silent nod shattered every fragile hope you had left. You lowered your gaze to your belly, where the small life inside you shifted gently, reminding you that it wasn't just yourself being affected. Your voice cracked. "But I'm 8 months pregnant, only a few weeks away. I don't know where to go." Those words fell into the void. Your father sighed and repeated firmly, "Your sister needs the space. There's no other way." You turned to your mother, searching for compassion. All she offered was a quiet, "You'll be fine." 4 words, simple yet heavy, like a door slammed shut right in front of you. Inside your mind, one question echoed relentlessly. Family is supposed to be the place you lean on, so why, when you need them the most, do they turn their backs? Close quote. Has anyone listening ever felt that sting being cast aside by the very people you thought you could depend on? You walked back to your room in a haze, your chest tight. Each familiar item around you suddenly became evidence of loss. Family photos on the wall, childhood keepsakes scattered on the shelf, everything seemed to stare back, but none could comfort you. Then your sister appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were steady, not the least bit conflicted. A faint triumphant smile crossed her face as she said, "This room suits me better, doesn't it?" Close quote. You didn't answer. Your throat closed, your heart throbbed painfully, each passing second pressing down harder on your chest. That night you sat on your bed, wide awake. Your swollen belly made it hard to breathe, but the weight inside your heart was heavier still. You could hear your sister laughing with your parents in the living room, while your own space lay silent, swallowed in shadows. It was then you realized you no longer had a place in this family. The next morning, you began to pack. Each tiny outfit you had folded for your baby now soaked with tears. You thought about the days ahead, uncertain of where you would sleep, unsure if you had the strength to carry both yourself and the life inside you forward. Yet somewhere between despair and fear, another feeling surfaced. Determination. You whispered to yourself, "I have to go. And I'll prove them wrong for casting me aside." The memory of your parents standing there as you packed your bags is carved deep within you. Not a word of comfort. Not a gesture of regret. Only silence, as silence colder than any words could ever be. You stepped over the threshold, your heart heavy, but your feet still moved forward. Because you knew that if you stopped, you would forever remain the one they overlooked. Have you ever had to leave the place you once called home and feel no desire to look back? That feeling is like a blade carving into your heart, leaving a scar that never fully fades. The days that followed were filled with unimaginable trials. You searched for temporary shelter, carrying both your swollen body and your broken spirit. There were moments when it felt as though the whole world had turned away. Yet in that loneliness, you began to see something you had never noticed before, the strength that lived inside you all along. Each morning, you woke in a small rented room, dim light seeping through a narrow window. You wrapped your arms around your belly, breathed deeply, and told yourself you would not let your child grow up in sorrow. You dreamed of giving your baby a new beginning, a home filled with love, even if it meant carving out the path entirely on your own. You recalled the countless times in the past you had tried to win your parents' approval, the little hopes that were always brushed aside. Now, standing in the middle of struggle, you finally understood it was time to stop waiting for their validation. Maybe being pushed out was not just rejection. Maybe it was the start of a new chapter where you could reclaim your dignity and voice. One evening, you stood by the window of your new room, looking out at the rain tapping against the glass. The air was cold, but your thoughts burned bright. You whispered to yourself, "Sometimes rejection is the beginning of something greater. Sometimes pain is what teaches you to discover your true strength." If you're listening and your heart feels heavy with these words, pause for a moment and ask yourself, if it were me, what would I choose? To silently endure the injustice, or to use it as fuel to rise? Close quote. Your story is not only about being pushed out of a house. It is about reclaiming your place, your voice, and the dignity that was taken from you. And that journey, truly, is only beginning. If this story resonates with you, let your response be simple. A like or subscribe isn't just support, it's a reminder that together, we can create a community where no one is left behind in their most fragile moments. The very first morning after leaving your parents' house, you opened your eyes in a small, unfamiliar rented room. Pale light slipped through a faded curtain, casting weak streaks of brightness across the cracked wall. The familiar bed was gone. The comforting smell of your mother's breakfast was gone. The noisy chatter of family life gone. There was only you, the heavy weight of your belly shifting restlessly, and a suffocating silence thick enough to press down on your chest. It felt as if you had just awakened from a long dream where everything you knew was suddenly stripped away, leaving nothing but emptiness inside you. You sat up, placing your hand over your stomach, when a soft kick stopped you in your tracks. The baby was still there, fragile but alive, as if whispering, "Mom, you are not living for yourself alone." Tears welled up, yet this time they weren't only filled with sorrow. For the first time, within those tears shimmered a faint spark, a new determination. You whispered, "I cannot collapse." That sentence echoed in your mind like an oath carved deep into your soul. The days that followed turned into a chain of trials. With your body weighed down by pregnancy, every walk to the market or the pharmacy became a long journey. One day, rain poured down in sheets, soaking your clothes, drenching your hair, forcing you to cradle your belly and run through puddles. Another day, exhaustion forced you to sit on the curb, rainwater mixing with your tears. But just when you were ready to give up, a strong kick inside jolted you awake. It was as though your baby was saying, "Mom, please keep going." Have you ever felt that urge to surrender, only to be pulled back by one small detail, a memory, a look, a heartbeat that kept you standing? For you, that anchor was the child inside you. One afternoon, you unexpectedly ran into an old friend. Seeing your weary face and frail figure, she froze. "What happened to you?" Close quote. You brushed it off with a faint smile, unwilling to explain. On some nights, you placed your hand on your belly and whispered to your baby, "I promise I will protect you. Even if I have to start from nothing, I will never let you lack love." These words weren't only for the child. They were for you, too, soothing your spirit, fueling you with strength to face another day. Then one day, a message from your sister arrived. Just a few careless words. "Your old room looks so nice now." For anyone else, it might have meant nothing. But for you, it cut deep like a blade. Your hands trembled, your heart clenched tight. Yet this time, the trembling didn't turn into weakness. It became fire. You clenched your fists and thought, "If I stay silent, I will forever remain a shadow. It's time to prove I am not weak." From that moment, your thoughts shifted. You no longer waited for an apology, nor did you hope for an embrace. Instead, you sat down, opened an old notebook, and began to write. Line after line spilled onto the page. Finances, hospital plans, ways to care for your child, jobs you might take later. Every word was a brick laid on the foundation of a new life. One evening, you stood before the mirror. The reflection showed a thin woman, dark circles under her eyes, fatigue etched across her face. But in those eyes, for the first time, there was steel. You allowed yourself a faint smile, not because everything was fixed, but because you knew. You were changing. You remembered your father's words, your mother's silence, your sister's faint smirk. They still pierced your heart, but they no longer had the power to crush you. Instead, they fueled you, transforming pain into strength. You understood. You couldn't change them, but you could change yourself. Sometimes you sat alone, listening to your baby's heartbeat, and wondered, "One day, if my child asks, 'Why did you have to leave?' How will I answer?" Close quote. You knew the answer could never be just tears. It had to be a story of resilience, of strength, of a mother who rose from the depths of pain. Do you believe that sometimes the most brutal events can ignite the fire of rebirth? If you were in such a situation, would you surrender or would you fight to rewrite your fate? From that pit of despair, you began to climb. The first steps were shaky, but each day you stood taller, steadier. And within those trembling steps, you discovered your true strength, a strength no one could ever take away. A strength born of pain, yet enduring, luminous, unbreakable. Time passed slowly, and each day felt like a new challenge. Yet within every breath, every step, you felt yourself moving closer to a milestone you would never forget. And then the day arrived, the day you held your baby in your arms for the very first time. Inside the small hospital room, you heard your child's first cry. That sound pierced through the heavy air and lit up your entire world. Tears streamed down your face, no longer tears of despair, but of joy, a release, of a brand new journey beginning. You whispered softly, "Welcome, my angel." In that moment, everything that had once hurt you, the room taken away, the cold words of your parents, the careless text from your sister faded into the background. You realized those losses had only been stepping stones that led you here, to this moment, where you could see your baby, touch your baby, feel the warmth of life in your arms. The first days of caring for your child were exhausting. Night after night, you stayed awake, rocking the baby in your arms, soothing every cry. Sometimes fatigue nearly broke you, but each time you looked into those clear eyes, strength returned. The first giggles, the tiny hands gripping yours as if never letting go, all of it became medicine that healed the wounds in your heart. You slowly began to understand a simple truth. Happiness doesn't come from parental approval or escaping comparison. Happiness comes in the quiet moments, like watching your baby sleep peacefully against your chest, or knowing you worked hard so your child could be warm and full. Sometimes, your mind wandered back to the past. You remembered your father's cold stare, your mother's silence, your sister's proud smile. But unlike before, those memories no longer left you breathless with pain. They became lessons. That sometimes, to find yourself, you have to walk away from the very place you once called home. Have you ever considered that what feels like complete destruction may actually be the beginning of rebirth? If you were faced with such loss, would you remain stuck in grief, or would you turn it into fuel for growth? You started building a new rhythm to your life. In the mornings, you woke earlier, finding part-time work while your baby slept. At night, you studied new skills, read books, wrote out future plans. Though your body ached with exhaustion, your heart carried a steady energy. Each small step reminded you were no longer living only for yourself, but for a little soul depending on you. Some days were brutally hard. You had to stretch every dollar, sometimes skipping meals so your child could have milk. Yet those very struggles carved resilience into you. You discovered that true strength wasn't about never falling, but about rising again every single time. You watched your baby grow day by day, almost as if time itself had slowed down, just so you could treasure every moment. The curve of a smile that lit up a tiny face, the trembling excitement of those first steps, the bubbling sounds that filled the quiet room with laughter, all of it became milestones carved deep in your heart. In those innocent eyes, you saw more than a child looking back at you. You saw a reflection of yourself, a soul once abandoned, yet refusing to surrender. And it was in that reflection that you finally discovered the answer to every doubt that had haunted your sleepless nights. Am I strong enough to keep going? Close quote. The answer, you realized, had been cradled in your arms all along. One afternoon, life confronted you with an unexpected test. Walking through the streets, you caught sight of your old family. Your parents. Your sister. They were there, unchanged, moving together like they always had, an image so familiar, yet so foreign now. They looked as if your existence had never left a trace upon them. Your heart squeezed painfully, a sharp reminder of the wound they had carved into you. For a moment, you expected the bitterness to rise, to consume you as it once did. But instead, something surprising happened. You smiled. Not out of scorn, not out of denial, but out of release. Because in that instant, you understood a truth you'd longed to feel: your happiness was no longer bound to them. It was here, right in front of you, in the sparkle of your baby's laughter, in the fragile yet unshakable life you had built with your own hands. Have you ever witnessed how profoundly a person transforms once they become a parent? Before, responsibility felt like a chain, heavy and suffocating. But when life places a tiny heartbeat into your arms, responsibility transforms into a shield, into a sword, into wings. It stops being a burden and becomes a force that drives you to exceed every limit you thought you had. For you, motherhood was not simply a role. It was a rebirth. It turned the ashes of your pain into the soil from which something new could grow. That old room, the one you had been forced to leave, the space that once represented rejection and loss, was now nothing more than a fading shadow in your memory. You no longer needed it. You no longer longed for it. You had built something far greater. A home of your own. Perhaps it was modest, perhaps the walls were bare and the nights long, but every corner carried the echo of laughter, the warmth of resilience, the pulse of a love untainted by comparison or favoritism. Most importantly, your child would grow up wrapped in that love, surrounded by the strength you had earned, not the rejection you had once endured. Each time you watched your baby drift into sleep, lashes resting gently on soft cheeks, you whispered words only the two of you would ever share. Thank you for coming to me. You are the reason I stood back up, the reason I found my strength, the reason I discovered who I truly am. Those words, soft and quiet in the dark, were more than lullabies. They were confessions of gratitude, not only to your child, but to yourself, for not surrendering, for daring to step into the storm, for walking through the darkness until you found the light again. And slowly, piece by piece, you began to see that life had not stripped everything away from you. It had not left you empty-handed. Instead, it had forced you to release what was never truly yours to keep. The house, the room, even the acceptance you once chased, none of it had been meant for you. Life had cleared them from your grasp, so that your hands would be free to hold something better. A new path, rough and steep, but real. A path that, though painful, led you to a form of happiness purer than anything you had known before. Do you believe that sometimes the most painful loss can secretly disguise itself as life's greatest gift? That behind the cruelty of abandonment, there can exist an invitation to uncover strength you never imagined yourself capable of. You lived through that paradox. You embodied it. What seemed like the end became the beginning. What once broke you gave you the chance to be rebuilt stronger, fiercer, more whole than before. And as you stood in the stillness of the night, your baby's breath rising and falling in rhythm with your own, you realized that this journey was not just about survival. It was about transformation. You had walked through rejection and grief, but you had emerged carrying something far more precious than pain. The unshakable knowledge that you were enough, that you could stand, that you could love without condition. In the silence, holding your child close, you finally understood. The road behind you was harsh, but it had carved a path toward a truth that could never again be taken from you. That truth was not about the family who had turned away, not about the room that had been lost, but about the life you had built with courage and tenderness. A life in which love was no longer a fragile hope, it was the foundation of everything. You had found that strength. It existed in every embrace, every step forward, every radiant smile when you look back on how far you'd come. And you knew the journey was only beginning. But you had enough courage now to keep going, with the faith that light always waits at the end of the road. Your journey from being a daughter pushed out of her home while carrying life within you, to becoming a mother strong enough to build a home of your own, proves that loss is not always the end, but often the beginning of a new story. You endured dark days, sleepless nights, and countless tears you thought would never end. Yet in return, you gained a treasure beyond measure, the love of your child, and the strength that had always been waiting inside you. Now, when you look back, you no longer see yourself as someone abandoned. You are living proof of resilience. You dare to walk through pain to reach the light, and in that light, you discovered a peace